Hello and welcome. You're listening to Start Again with Shauna Lee, the place where you will be reminded that it's never too late and you're never too old to do the damn thing. So stick around if you're ready to vibe higher and be inspired to chase your dreams. Together, we will uncover your soul's truest desires. Now, if you're ready, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Start Again with Shauna Lee. Today, I'm introducing you to an inspirational woman who you are going to be so impressed with, and I know that you will go off and do great things just by hearing her story. You'll be so inspired. So she hosts her own podcast, which I have been a guest on previously. She is the Lioness Queen in the flesh, and I cannot wait for you to get to know her. So, Marisha, will you please give my listeners, our audience for today, a little intro to who you are and how you identify as a Start Again Queen?
Oh man, thank you so much for having me. When you said the title of your podcast, that gave me goosebumps.
Love it.
It gave me goosebumps because I'm appreciative that we all have an opportunity to start again. You know, no matter what we've experienced. And I myself had to be in that place of starting over and starting again. And, you know, unfortunately, divorce is what made that shift in my life. And divorce is what took me down a journey that hills and valleys I never knew I would ever see or experience in my life. But I'm appreciative of those hills and valleys because they have really helped me to grow, helped me to realize the residue that I had that I needed to get rid of, the baggage, and helped me to aspire to now being a podcaster, a divorce coach, a licensed minister, and so it's helped me to become something I would have never thought I would have, gone down this path. And so I'm appreciative. I always say I thank my ex for making the decision of rejecting me because he made my life so much better.
Isn't that amazing when we can look back and be appreciative of what in the moment felt horrible? And I forgot, but I'm reminded of our previous conversation. I love the way you describe things. Your hills and valleys metaphor is so beautiful to describe what is really just some really low lows and some highs that kind of get us through, right? I love that description, and it's so good.
I mean, I think that's life. Life has its own hills and valleys, but I think, trauma, has, I would say, deeper levels of hills and valleys that we all experience on different waves. But, waves come and waves go, and you just have to ride them out.
Absolutely. And you use a term that I don't hear anybody else using, and that is residue. So can you talk a little bit about that and describe what you mean by that? Because I think that's really important.
So I realized when I started my podcast, I wanted like a theme. And in the beginning, it was all about divorce and helping women work through the residue from divorce. Another way to say it is baggage, right? Mm-hmm. But I think residue, that term, when you think of it, it's so minuscule. It's so small. It's something that you don't really see with the naked eye that we all have in our heart. Yep. And sometimes we don't realize it until we're triggered by certain things. Sometimes we don't realize, oh, I thought I got over that thing. And I know for a fact that all of us as women and men have to say, we all deal with residue from past experiences. And so that was my mantra about helping women to live residue free, always realizing that we have residue, realizing that we need to always work on getting rid of it so that we
Mhm.
can be who we are supposed to be. So we don't carry it into the next relationship that we are in. And so
Yeah.
that was something that in the beginning of when I was starting my podcast, I have to say that it really resonated with me, even in my own healing, while I'm doing the podcast, while I was speaking out to women. And then what I realized, or what other women helped me realize, hey, I'm not divorced, but I have residue from my past. And
Yep.
so it
Absolutely.
shifted my podcast actually, where I rebranded, where it's not just for divorced women, it is for all of us because we all have a past and we all have residue from it. But the question is, how do we move and work through it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just, again, think the words you choose are so beautiful to give value and meaning to some of the more hurtful aspects of life. So I love that. And you're the first one I've had on my podcast who has her own podcast. So I know what it was for me to start this endeavor. And I talked about it for about 2 years before I actually did it. So can you talk about what your experience was from the moment you thought I might like to have a podcast to the point where you actually started?
So it's really funny. I have to say, I might be a different pickle
Okay.
because I have to say, I might be a different pickle because my mother, when I was a little girl, we used to have these mom and daughter talks. And I used to have this rocking chair I would sit in. And my mom always told me, you can do anything you want to do. Just make it up in your mind and do it. And from a little girl, I've never had a fear of trying something. And
I
so
love that.
when I was younger, I was in my early 20s. Um, I had started college and I don't know how I got connected, but at one point I was a professional clown. My clown name was Shampoo. I enjoyed doing kids' parties. And it was funny. I had a friend of mine. We were going to be shampoo and conditioner. We were going to get a Volkswagen bug, and drive around. And that was like my first endeavor of stepping outside of the box. Then
That's a big one.
it's a big one. And then I got my manicuring license, and my dad was like, "Why are you putting school to do that?" I
Yeah.
got my manicuring license, and then I would say some. Then I got married, had a
Yeah.
son. Life shifted. Hey, I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna get my master's degree, right? Then it was I had started a paint party business.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know anybody, but I just started. And then it was this podcasting, and so I had talked to my husband about it, and I was like, I think it's just something I want to do. I want to help women.
Hmm.
I think we all need to be encouraged and inspired.
Yeah.
I just started researching and looking at what people use, and I heard you can start with your phone, and I started with my phone.
Yep.
And I have to say, there was anxiety about putting my voice out there. There was the anxiety of even when I started my YouTube channel, putting my face out there.
Oh, for sure.
And you don't know you have it until you do it, right? And it's
Yes.
like, man. And once I started, I've loved it ever since. But I
Hmm.
I did have a fear
Yeah.
of what people would say about what I'm saying, you know,
Oh, 100%.
right? Like that critique thing. I'm self-critiquing. I'm thinking about what other people are going to critique about me
Hmm.
when really, hey, just do it. Just and that's what I did. I just did it, and now I'm 2 years in.
I love it. I love it. And I think part of our conversation was what inspired me to say, "Oh, what the heck? I think I can do this. Like I'm in. I'm just going to do it. Forge ahead." Of course, it still took me a little more time to do that, but the critiques do come, and I've actually had a few people critique this podcast so far, and you know, I listen, I take it in, I use what I can, and I just keep moving forward because to me, I think the content that I'm creating is more important than the way it's being delivered. I could get caught up in all the little tiny details of audio quality and all of the things that come with
Yeah,
it. But
I mean, people get caught up in that. And the one thing I have to say that God helped me to understand, we're not perfect. It's not about perfection, but creation.
yes.
And people are going, there will be naysayers. There will be
Hmm.
people who say, oh, well, I would have said it like that, or I would have done it like that. But the
Yep.
one thing I heard, I don't know, was it some influencer, and they said everyone has a voice and everyone can have a seat at the table. This world is so big because it's easy to think, oh, there's so many podcasts out there.
Yes.
What is yours going to do? But the world is so big,
It
and
is so
there's
big.
enough space in this world for you to have a seat at the table. And so,
Absolutely.
if any of your audience is thinking about starting a podcast, just do it. And I have to say that you don't realize how much it comes back to you where it helps
Hmm.
you as well.
Well, it does. It's funny because a couple weeks ago, thought, gosh, this feels really selfish to do this podcast because all of a sudden I'm just having these amazing conversations. I hit record, I share them. Of course, it's not quite that easy, but you know what I mean? Like, I am getting so much out of the conversations that it feels a little bit selfish that I'm just kind of doing this thing for me. You're right. I totally get something out of it. And I learn something from every one of my guests. And I love the themes that come through guest after guest after guest who say the same thing. I, Nike, whoever at Nike came up with the just do it phrase, it iconic. Like it's so true. So
And it's
true.
therapeutic. I consider it
Yes.
therapeutic. Because I think sometimes and this is what therapy is, right? Therapy
It
is you
is.
talk to someone and you're talking.
Yes.
And oftentimes as you talk, the answer is already ready in you. Sometimes you need a
100%.
person to pull it out. And it comes out just by you talking. And so
Yes.
that's what I believe with podcasting. It is really, although I have poured into it in helping women
Yes.
work with their residue, but that thing has helped me work with my residue.
Yes. What is that phrase that says we heal others when we heal ourselves? It's through our own healing that we're able to then help other people. It's so true. Um, okay. So when you look back at your story thus far, what do you think is the most inspiring?
I would say the most inspiring thing for me was my valleys.
Mm,
It was my valleys that I have learned um, in those spaces when I don't know what's going on, I don't
mhm.
know what to do, I'm scared, I'm anxious. Looking back, those are the spaces for me where I grew the most, where I did the most. And it's interesting going back to that starting over for me.
Mhm.
Every time my ex-husband decided that he didn't want me, or in those valleys is when I don't know where the courage came from. I don't know where putting one foot in front of the other came from, but it did. And we will have those until we transition on. We'll always have those valleys. But as I look back, it's so easy for me to know that that was the shifting point for me.
Yes.
And if I have another valley, there will be another shifting point that I'll be going up on the incline.
Absolutely. And that's actually a great segue into my next question, because it's talking about those valleys. So, what do you think is the most surprising challenge you faced along your journey, and how did you overcome it?
I think a lot of it had to do with me and my mindset. I truly believe that It was my mindset that held me back from being open to the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sometimes we think good is enough when there's greater in the next chapter.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so for me, my mindset was stuck in a chapter where God really wanted me to turn the page, but I was so stuck in this chapter, and I was
Mm-hmm.
stuck because of time. I was stuck because of experience. I was stuck because of the familiar. And I think that is the fear of starting over.
Oh, for sure.
We're stuck in a chapter when there's so many more chapters of our lives to live, um, and we just have to get to a point where we embrace just turning the page.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. So I've written a book, so I love all the writers' book analogies. I think that I'm like, yes, yes, that's so true. I think that one of my favorites is don't judge me based on the chapter you walked in on. Like just because that's where I am right now doesn't mean that's where I'm going to stay. But essentially you're talking about comfort zones. And I think that being in a comfort zone is the biggest reason why people don't start whatever it is that they're wanting to do. Um, and it always reminds me of this it was probably a meme on the internet, let's be clear. I'm sure it wasn't some famous quote, but it says nothing good ever came or nothing great ever came from comfort zones. And it's true. If you think about all the great creations or businesses or wonderful relationships, those came from a moment of being scared and not being comfortable and probably being very, very uncomfortable. And so I just like to remind myself of that when I'm in a valley, when I'm in a point where I know I'm clearly outside of my comfort zone, this has the potential to be great. We
And
always
it's
want to.
temporary. That's
Yes.
the thing. It's temporary. Like we don't stay in valleys forever. However, there are some people who do.
There
But
are
that's
some
a
people who
choice.
do. Yes.
That right there, and you may not think it's a choice. That was the other thing that God had to help me with is like, oh, you're choosing to
Mm-hmm.
be rejected. And I'm like, no, rejection was, that's a fact. But how you're feeling, how you're internalizing the rejection, you're choosing, right?
Yes.
You don't, it happened to you, but it, I interviewed someone and she says, yes, things don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Isn't that amazing to be able to shift it that way? Mm-hmm. It's
Yes,
true.
I'm like, yes, it happened for
For
me. But
you.
when you're in that chapter and when you're stuck and you're trying to figure out the reasons why, right?
Yeah.
Why did this happen? Why did this not work? Why does he not want me?
Yes.
Why? When you sing that song, when you sing that nursery rhyme, then you cannot turn the page. You cannot
Mm-mm.
know that there's another nursery rhyme that you could learn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Learn a new song. I always say change the story because really it's our emotions and the way we feel is based on the things that we're telling ourselves. And so it's the story that you're believing, whether it's a limiting belief, whether it's you think you're the best person to walk the face of the earth, it's just the story that you are believing. And if it's not working for you and you don't like it and it feels terrible, change the story.
Mhm.
So if you were to think back to the younger you pick the age, what advice would you give her?
Ooh, what advice would I
Mm-hmm.
give her? Hmm, that's a good one. I'm gonna tell you what, especially as it relates to relationships.
Yes.
When somebody shows you who they are, believe it.
Maya Angelou.
Because my ex-husband showed me who he was from the beginning. It took him 9 years to marry me. 9 years is a
9 years.
long time.
It is.
And it's a long, even though we were young,
Mm-hmm.
it still is a long time. And um, he was hesitant
Mm-hmm.
to get married. And that hesitation, I should have trusted them. And so when a man shows you who they are, and there are signs, we just want to believe in the potential.
Oh, yes.
Right? We want to believe more in the potential than in what we see. Trust what you see because
Yep.
it's there in front of you. But unfortunately, we want the relationship, we want the white dress, we want to walk down the aisle, not realizing that the signs, they manifest later on. They're going to manifest and pop up.
I say that one often. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
Mhm.
Because
But
people
when
will
you
show
want
you.
something bad,
Oh,
so
yes.
that's the thing. We were as little girls, we're like, this is what you always want. This is da da da, and so this is what we grow up like. We want this Cinderella thing
Oh,
going
for sure.
on, like we want this Prince Charming thing going on. But again, there are signs, and the
Mm-hmm.
signs are real. And then also, guess what? I would also tell my younger self, look at the family history dynamic,
Mm.
right? Look at how he how that individual grew up. Like, what type of household did they grow up in? How were their parents' marriage, and things like that. Because that whole dynamic also gives you a picture of possibly what they internalize and what type of father that they could be, what type of husband they could be.
Yep.
Family dynamics, we are a lot like our parents, I have to say.
Yes.
Whether it's conscious or not, we are a lot like our parents. And so looking at those things, when you're stepping into a relationship or even making a decision into getting married to someone,
Mm-hmm.
you got to look at those things.
You really do. And I think those are some of the things where we as, I'm going to say women mostly, but we have a tendency to excuse away and say, well, I know it wasn't the best or whatever. It's something to definitely pay attention to. It's
But
something.
we we ignore those signs. We ignore those signs, girl. Because we in love,
Yes. That,
especially the potential. Oh, he has so much potential. No, he
yes.
don't have a job. Come
Yes.
on, he doesn't have a
Come
job. No,
on.
he's living with you.
Yes.
What?
Well, this is where love is blind comes from because when you are in love, you are blind to all those signs. Okay, so then we talked about your past self and the advice you would give her. If we shift focus to the future, where are you going from here? What's next for you?
So right now, so currently I did start I would say maybe about a month or 2 months ago, I started a online Christian radio station. So
Yes.
that's one thing I have going on now, that I'm excited about. And soon, hopefully before the holidays, I am writing a book. I
I
truly
love
believe
it.
because of the pandemic these past few years, a lot of people are grieving
Yes.
and they need to they need help. There's not enough therapists, mental health therapists, counselors in the world. And I truly believe that if people had something that they could do at home to guide them to really, you know, work and do the emotional work within
Mm-hmm.
themselves. So I'm hoping that book will come out, and by the holidays, I'm hoping.
That's great
So
timing.
yeah, great time because the holidays are the worst time, and
They really are.
they're really the worst time. And I really, my goal is really to help people, understand that unfortunately, as soon as we're born, we have a number, but we don't. That's not something that we think about, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, and whether or not you believe in an afterlife, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. I truly do,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't believe. And we're here. We're not here long. We're not here a long time, and I feel like life is all about valuing the time you have.
It's so
And
true.
even in short, like when children pass, and young
Mm-hmm.
people pass, and you hear about their stories, and it's like, man, wow, you know, it's about what you do, and it's about the dash, it's about what you do during that time. And so, my book is all trying to help the individual realize, like, hey, man, ooh, you got a chance to experience love. Everybody does. You got a chance to experience friendship.
Yes.
Everybody does it.
Yes.
And really holding on to that individual's legacy and letting their life still shine even in their death. You know what I mean? And so that's
Yeah.
kind of what the book is about, just trying to give hope, and celebrating that individual who passed.
I love that. And you are right. It is very much needed. And I think the holidays are so hard for so many people. And it's a very lonely time, even though we're in the midst of all these group gatherings and the lights and the presents and all of the things that are on the it's all very surface level, happy, happy, joy, joy. But it's a silent struggle that a lot of people are dealing with. And I love that you said that this book is going to give them a way to do the work at home, because we talked about therapy and talk therapy and how important that is. But I think being able to just spend time with yourself to answer certain questions and to kind of work through and think through, that's where the real growth comes from. That's where the real healing comes from. And that's a great gift that you're going to be able to give the world. I love it.
And that's starting again,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Like
Absolutely.
that right there. Because that's the thing. A lot of times we want to press the pause button when life keeps going.
It does.
And you have to figure out how to start again. I remember when my ex and I separated, and the holidays, just like with the loss, the holidays are just like, I was with my ex for 24 years. And
Yeah.
so, and we combined family.
Mm-hmm.
And so for 24 years,
Mm-hmm.
what do I do for the
Yes.
holidays? And I'm gonna tell you, I just won't ever forget. God was like, well, why can't you do something new? And I was like,
Yes.
oh, I can. And I
Oh,
remember
wait. Yes, I can.
my first holiday, I think it was Thanksgiving. I don't know if it was Thanksgiving or Christmas. But me and my mom, yeah, because that was my first actually holiday without my son being around
Mm-hmm.
me.
Oh,
Now that's a whole nother
that's
discussion.
a
But
whole different thing.
that I hate sharing. I'm an only child. I don't
Yes.
like it. Anyway. So me and my mom, we went to, now I love the Christmas Story movie.
Yes.
And me and my mom went to a Chinese restaurant for
Oh, stop it. That's amazing.
Thanksgiving. No, it's for Christmas. And so it
Christmas.
made me think about the movie. It
Yes.
made me think about them singing the song wrong,
Yes. Yes.
all of that. And so I had a new experience.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and from then I just created new experiences because
Mm-hmm.
life still goes on.
It does.
And I had to learn how to turn the page.
Yes, and you can choose to sit there in your sadness, which I admittedly had several of those after actually my third divorce. Sharing my children after that became so much harder because I was so adamantly against ever being divorced again. I was like Ross Geller from Friends. I was not going to have a third divorce. Absolutely. And then I was like, well, shit, here I am divorced for the third time. And I was so sad and lonely after that divorce when I had to share my children on holidays. It is such a valley, as you say. It is such a valley. But in that moment, I was like, okay, I can choose to sit here with my wine and sad movies, or I can make a new memory. I can choose again. I can decide. I suddenly, one of my girlfriends and I, we started going to a movie, just she and I, on Christmas Day. And I was like, this is so great. Why have I never done this? Oh, because I was stuck in, all the things we do. So I love your story. That's so good. Just
Yeah,
pick,
you have to.
yeah,
Starting again is about creating a new narrative.
absolutely.
Gotta create a new. I remember on the day of my divorce, I was good up until, we walked out and my girlfriend was there with me. And as
Mm-hmm.
soon as he left, I broke down
Mm-hmm.
and, shed some tears because that
Mm-hmm.
chapter was closing. And then my girlfriend and I, we went and had breakfast. And then we went horseback riding.
Oh, I
And
love it.
we had a blast that day, And so again, you have to figure out ways to create a new narrative. There's so many
Yeah.
things you can do to create a new narrative. And the more you create new memories and do new things, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not about forgetting, but it's
Oh,
about
no.
adding more memories to your memory bank. You know what I mean? In
Mm-hmm.
order to realize, hey, I have more life to live.
Yeah, and I think it's about enjoying the life we do have. It talks about exactly what you're talking about. Your book will provide. It's about really truly embodying and enjoying that this is our one life. While we're here, let's make the best of it. And so you can either be a sad little puddle or you can be horseback riding. It's up to you. Well, I know that people are going to want to follow along. One, so they can hear when your book is out, but also just to be inspired by you. So, where can people find you?
So my website is www.iamthelionessqueen.com. And then on social media, Lioness Queen, Facebook, Instagram,
Love it.
Twitter. Yeah, you can find.
Where I love it. So, I will obviously link all of those in the show notes for everyone. But where did you come up with Lioness Queen?
So that's an interesting question. When you're trying to connect what you want to talk about with the
Mm-hmm.
name,
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to find something that related to a woman being courageous.
Yes.
And a lioness definitely is. And it's funny, when I was researching about lioness, I didn't realize when they go out hunting, the lions are in the back.
Mm-hmm.
The female lion, the lioness, are the ones that go out first.
Yes.
And so I truly believe we as women, we have, we have so much in us to be overcomers, to move forward, to work through. I love to say, God created women second because he had to perfect his creation.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So I truly believe
Okay.
as women, he created us in a way where we can wear multiple hats. Men can't do that.
Yeah.
Very flexible. That's one of the reasons why we are the ones that can carry a child.
Yeah.
And in the same regard, in those valleys, we have so much in us that we can overcome
It's so true. Well, I
and
think
start again and start again.
absolutely. Absolutely. And my question, how are you a start again queen? It catches some women off guard a little bit when I ask them that because it's the first time I think they've ever considered themselves as a queen. And so I love that you say lioness queen because yes, there's some courage there, but there's also the
Work.
queen that you're in, yes, that you're embodying. And I think you are perfectly embodying a lioness queen. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so, so much. But I truly believe, again, it was my valleys that helped me to learn my worth, you know.
Absolutely.
And, and I truly believe when you go through rejection, when you go through divorce, you have to realize that those things don't define who you are. You know what I
They do
mean?
not.
And you define who you are. And I had to realize that I am a queen. I had to realize I am worthy of love. I am worthy of whatever is coming my way. And I just wanted to take advantage of it.
I love it. And I'm so glad you did and that you're sharing it with the world.
Thank you.
Okay, listen. Are you struggling to find what your true purpose really is? You should try journaling. At the very least, it will get you to a better feeling place than where you are right now. I've created a set of journal prompts to get you on your way to discovering who you truly are and where you want to go from here. My free download is called Journal Yourself to Joy, and it's available at shaunalee.com under free stuff. These are my tried and true journal prompts that will raise your energy, increase your positivity, and brighten your day. Download yours today.